everybody, what's going on? I'm Chris. Thanks for watching. Deshaun Watson, very popular in fantasy drafts in 2018. And I have to say, it's a bummer for me. It's a bummer. Last year, I had Deshaun Watson as my number one pick in the NFL draft. That's who I would have taken number one overall. I was a huge cheerleader, said so on the podcast, really wanted him to work out. And in 6 career starts now, the kid had 18 touchdown passes, 253 rushing yards. If you were just going on the production of last season, you'd say Deshaun Watson should be a top 5 quarterback. The good was really good. But the bad was terrible, and I have to show you the film, and it's why I can't endorse you drafting Deshaun Watson at anything close to the price that he's currently going for. I strongly recommend you stay away for 2018. Let's look at the film. I'm going to show you some bad stuff first, and then I'll show you some good stuff. It's not like I don't like the player, but at his price, no way. Really, I'm just going to talk at first about bad decisions, bad vision, bad mechanics, all the things you would expect from a young quarterback. This is the Patriots in week 3 last year, and you can't make this play. The Texans are winning 10-7. It's a 1st and 10. In other words, this is nothing like a desperate situation, and if you watch this play, Watson isn't really even under that much pressure. New England rushes 4. He's got 6 blockers. And yes, definitely, eventually, it's, I think, Dietrich Wise who's fighting through a double team, and he gets pressure in Watson's face. But he just needs to read this play better. If you look to his left, there's nothing there. There's nothing on the left. You've got great legs. Scramble left around Wise. You either extend the play and then throw with much more time, or just run, and that's okay too. Instead, really bad judgment. In the end, this game turns into a shootout, and Watson racks up some really good numbers in what turns into actually New England winning that game at the end. But it certainly, he could have made it easier on himself, and Houston could have won this game.
No scooch. 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 No scooch. Now that's a scooch.
Yeah.
No scooch. Scooch. No scooch. You need a scooch.
Yeah.
Week 5 against the Chiefs. This is his very first throw of the game. It's play action. I want you to watch his feet. Watch him flat-footed in the pocket. And all right, that might be his style. We're a little more lenient in the NFL now that you don't have to be classic with your footwork on every single throw. I get that, especially when you have a big arm like Watson. And nobody's ever going to say he doesn't have athletic feet. Of course he does. But you can see the mistake that it leads to. It's a little crow hop backwards. It gets his eyes playing tricks. He thinks he sees DeAndre Hopkins over the middle, and Hopkins is beating his man. He doesn't see number 49, Reed Sorensen, standing right there. And I think it's the crow hop. I think it's the fact that he probably got his eyes kind of going funky because he jumped up unnecessarily in the pocket, and it certainly could have been an interception. Same drive. Kansas City's rushing 4. Watson's got time. Once again, he's flat-footed. Once again, he can't step up. And as on the previous throw, his back leg swings out when he throws. You can see it, the right leg kicking out, and the throw has to be all arm, and he hasn't made the adjustment that the throw has to be all arm, and Ryan Griffin is open, and it sails 5 feet over his head. Couple drives later, same game. I guess he thinks he can hit a tight window to Hopkins on a slant, but at the shotgun snap, watch his head. See where he's looking? Head turns immediately where he plans on throwing. Well, guess who sees that? A very slow gentleman playing linebacker for the Chiefs, one Derek Johnson. And frankly, I think Watson is lucky it's Johnson, because if it's a faster linebacker, it's probably a pick 6 instead of being deflected. Young guy, doesn't look off the linebacker. No, you're not going to make this play. At halftime of that Chiefs game, a national TV game, Watson's 4 for 12, and the Texans are losing 23-7. Big comeback effort necessary. Deshaun Watson winds up with 5 passing touchdowns, and we look back at the box score and we go, man, What a great game for Deshaun Watson, without acknowledging he did a lot of the digging of the hole himself. Who does that remind us of? Who in recent history made a great fantasy season out of digging a giant hole? That's right, Blake Bortles. And of course, am I saying that Deshaun Watson is Blake Bortles? No. Deshaun Watson's a much better player, has much more potential, but to fall in love with the numbers is to commit a similar sin as some did a few years ago with Bortles. This is Watson's final game of 2017. This is against Seattle. Now watch this one. Dude, you have to know where the safeties are. The Seahawks don't have secrets on defense. Earl Thomas is standing right there. And listen, it's really easy to pick apart any interception and say, oh, you should have made a better play. Look at that. Don't throw that ball. But in this case, can't we look at this and legitimately say, don't throw that ball? On this play, no question, Hopkins is Watson's first read. In this case, he does look the other way pre-snap, and you can sort of see his head turn to the right. But in the process of looking back left, he doesn't have the game plan in mind, and he doesn't realize this is what Seattle does. You're getting at least one safety back. You're going to get a safety high. Earl Thomas is in center field. It's what he does, and it's uncontested, unconcealed. Watson just doesn't see him. That's a young player being young. Not saying he's bad, but it's a bad play. And same game, tie game, 24-24. Again, it's a young player being young. This is what he does best, extend plays like this. And I'm going to start paying him some compliments in a second, I promise, so it's not all hatred for Deshaun Watson. But you can't do this. You extend the play. You can't be leading a receiver in deep traffic where you know you sent DeAndre Hopkins out into a pass pattern. You can check it. There's Hopkins. He's covered by Richard Sherman on the right sideline. No matter who he's covered by, it doesn't matter that he's Sherman. Watson has to know, okay, since I sent a receiver there to the right, that's an extra defender who's on that side of the field. And when the pass goes up, Sherman floats away from Hopkins, and he sees the ball float out of Watson's hand, and that winds up being a key interception in a tie game. Watson's mistakes didn't all show up in the box score, but these starts were filled with tape of a young kid who did not fully grasp how to play quarterback at a pro level. He has a lot to learn. Let's get to the good stuff. Because obviously, the raw materials are fantastic. That Houston-Seattle game might have been the game of the year because Watson kind of started doing a fair Russell Wilson impersonation. Watch him extend this play and then just, I'm not going to recommend you do this, but jump up in the air. Ho-hum, I'm jumping up in the air and throwing the ball 40 yards on a line, on a string, perfectly. It makes you understand why the kid takes chances, why he's flat-footed on those plays against the Chiefs, why I razzed him for being kind of too loose earlier, but you can understand if he's got this sort of raw ability and eventually harnesses it, you can imagine how good he's going to be. Or how about this one? We'll go back to the Chiefs game. Watch number 99, the defensive tackle. He's going to come free on a stunt, and he's got Deshaun Watson dead. And Watson feels it and just dances. Inside the pocket, how is he not sacked there? How is that not a sack? And then, yeah, I mean, I don't even know you should throw that. Will Fuller is pretty covered here. It happens to be another laser thrown to the exact spot where his guy can catch it and the other guy can't touch it, and it's an insane play. I think it's kind of maybe a little ill-advised. I love the first part where you're getting out of the way of the sack. I'm not sure I'd recommend the second part, but my goodness, that's an unbelievable throw. And then he's got the fantasy football cheat code. It's the one thing that's different when you're evaluating quarterbacks for fantasy as opposed to real life. The running QB can be disproportionately valuable. This is Watson's, I think, only run of the entire season, the part that he was before he tore his ACL, that went for more than 18 yards. But if it reminds you of Michael Vick or RG3, I get that. He stiff arms one guy, he survives another potential tackle, and he's gone. He's fast. I remember people doubting him, didn't love the combine workout, whatever. He can absolutely earn a top 5 fantasy season just by doing that a bunch of times, because that breaks fantasy. That's why Cam Newton is a much better fantasy quarterback than a real-life quarterback, and Cam Newton's a good quarterback, but the run like that, I get it. I understand why people would be in love. my qualms about Watson in 2018 are much more about price than ability. And for the price that you have to pay, in some leagues, he's going as high as the number 2 quarterback overall. You have to have a player who's ready to be great, and you're sure of it, who has an established track record, who didn't lay a bunch of eggs on film hidden as Easter eggs among the really good plays. You can see it going bad. You're not going to have that kind of touchdown ratio. You're not going to have a Will Fuller going off. I think Will Fuller had 13 catches from Watson last year, and 7 of them were touchdown passes. I mean, that's not realistic. And if the touchdown rate regresses, then the bad stuff starts hurting him more. And you wind up having a more Bortlesy season where you wind up with a bunch of interceptions and maybe the touchdowns aren't as good. And then we have the ACL problem. Now, I have no way of knowing, and nobody has any way of knowing through August, whether his knee is going to be in any sort of shape to be the scrambler that we want him to be, and maybe he will be. And I'm not, with my low rank of Watson, I'm not expressing complete doubt that he can be the running quarterback. I'm saying I don't know. It's a factor that I can't count on, and I almost would have to count on if he's going to be the number 2 or even the number 5 quarterback off my board, which he will not be. I wish I could continue to love him to the extent I did last year. I love his career upside. My comp for his career is still Donovan McNabb. I think he's going to be really good. He scares me. Too many shaky plays and shaky reads on film for me to trust him at a position that just doesn't have a lot of scarcity in fantasy football. I like you, Deshaun Watson, just not in fantasy at your price for this year. All right, well, I have been Chris Harris. I hope you go to harrisfootball.com. I have a podcast you can listen to just about every day, 5 days a week, something like that. There's the Fantasy Football Almanac that you can find at harrisfootball.com, where I spent 2 months writing profiles of everybody you need to know in fantasy for this year. It's fun to do this for you. Let's do it again soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button. Write a comment. Tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on. And of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel.